If you've been feeling stuck and you've been struggling to figure out what that is, I've got something for you. Welcome back to another video. My name is Matt Schmidt and I guide people to heal themselves. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the number one thing that most people don't consider that's holding them back. And I'm going to show you how to break out of that cycle, break out of that pattern. So this one really surprised me and I'm excited to share this one with you because it kind of caught me off guard. And then looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. It first kind of dawned on me in a session a while ago, and I was kind of seeing this person, they were having trouble moving past something, and I was like, okay, they're attached to something. The typical type of attachments that we see are things external. So it's like an attachment to maybe an ex, or attachment to a job or a place, or I don't know, certain old friends. But in this, like, I saw them and it was like another picture of them. I'm like, what? And I didn't get it, but they were literally attached to themselves. And the more that you think about this, the more that it kind of makes sense. So when we think about attachments, it's being stuck in, like, being attached to what's familiar, what's comfortable, the things that we know, and we stay in that for that reason, because it's comfortable. We don't have to change, and that's really kind of what we're clinging to. Okay. So when I became aware of this, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're attached to this idea of themselves. They have this idea of themselves that's actually keeping them, preventing them from becoming something else. And they're clinging to that old idea of themselves so strongly that that's what's keeping them stuck. So they're trying to do all this like cord cutting with other people, and they're like, why am I not getting anywhere? Why am I stuck? And it was because of this belief that they had. And then I look back on it and I'm like, holy crap, that's what I experienced. So I may have shared this example before. You may have heard me share this example. When I had my old job, when I was still working at the school here at Civil Hop, I knew I was supposed to be doing this work, but I wasn't leaving. I was still doing that job. And during that time, a couple things happened. I fell off a sailboat and hurt my shoulder, and then I re-injured it falling out of a tree, cutting trees. And it didn't go away. Like, I couldn't raise my arm. I couldn't, like, move it backwards. Couldn't raise it above my head. And it was like that for like 5 months. I was told, I worked with some physical therapists, told I would probably need rotator cuff surgery. And then I heard I was still hanging on to my old job. Okay. Once I quit that job, walked away from that, it was gone in like 30 seconds. It completely healed. I have full range of motion and everything's fine. And I was like, in my mind at that time, I was like, oh, I'm attached to the job. That made more sense to me than what I understand now. But what I was actually attached to was not the job. It wasn't anything outside of me. It was the identity I had of myself. Because I didn't know another me. And that's scary. It's scary to like have to move away from what you know, what's familiar, and explore something new. And that was really hard. That was harder than like being attached to the job. Like, jobs come and go, but this identity I have of myself, well, I'm this and I'm this and I have this, and that became such a strong part of my identity that it was hard to walk away from that because of me clinging to that. Okay. And once I let go of that, when I walked away from the job, it appeared as if it was the job, but no, I left that world behind and I stepped into the new me. And that was way scarier than quitting and starting another job. So once we can realize it's that and not something outside of ourselves, it's way easier to address. Ironically enough, I realize that I'm still doing this. People think I have this stuff all figured out, but no, I'm still doing this even now. I was kind of pushed to do the shamanic program. There's a shamanic program here that's offered that's like top notch, and I was being guided to do that, but like I kept talking myself out of it. I kept coming up with excuses why not to do it, and that's because of this old identity. Well, I'm this, and I do quantum healing, and I do this with people. I don't do that. So it was actually breaking down this like who I thought I was, and to actually step into that. Ironically enough, the version of you that you have in your head is the only one that exists like that. No one else sees you the way that you see you. So when you think about it in simplest terms, it really is just the way that you see you. I remember when I went through a healing process, I realized that like I was getting hung up on It was my perception of other people's perceptions. So that's like not even a real thing. That's like a made up thing. So when you take a step back and you realize it's all coming from within you, that's where you can make the change. Okay, and then it's just addressing those things for you, not anyone else. And then it gets way easier, it gets way simplified. So how do you break out of this? It's actually really simple. I'm going to use the example of the shamanic program. I'm pushing myself to do it. Get uncomfortable. That's where the magic is. You don't get anywhere by doing the same crap you've been doing. All of the magic comes from the unknown. It comes from the unfamiliar. It comes from what's uncomfortable. If you just stay in the same place, that's not progress. You're just sitting there doggy paddling in the middle of the pool and you're not getting anywhere. Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, you can be comfortable, but that's not really, if you're really wanting to thrive and really live, you got to push yourself out of that. And if this can be a daunting task, but there is a way that you can make this easier. So for people, I recommend start doing something small. It doesn't have to be a big thing because a lot of times it's just this resistance to change. Okay? And once you can embrace change, once change becomes a part of your normal life, because really the only consistency in life is change. So once you embody that, once you embrace that, start with something small and then you build from there. And then change isn't that daunting. Take a different way to work. Order something different at your favorite restaurant. Do something different. Have a different conversation with someone. Watch a different show. Do something different. Okay? And that actually breaks your mind out of these patterns. And the fear isn't as much. So I can't see like a graph. Like the threshold that you have to go over is way lower once you do that. Because like, oh, okay, that's not as big of a deal. And then you can start making these bigger changes that actually are keeping you on this different trajectory. So all these things will add up. And then when you get to these big changes, it won't actually be a big deal. And you'll see how amazing these things are in your life. And you look back and you're like, that was really nothing. You know, for me, the anticipation of things is way worse than actually doing it. And just stepping into it, stepping into that fear. That's how I kind of know I have to do something too now. If I'm afraid to do it and it's not for like a danger reason, like, oh yeah, I could actually hurt myself. I know that's something that I have to push myself to do. And that just gets easier and easier over time. So start with something small, work your way up, and then that change isn't so daunting, and watch how this magic plays out in your life. All right. Hopefully this helps some of you guys. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Share your comments in the comments below, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.